Hey guys, welcome to another For the Painter Good painting tutorial, and today we're going to look at the awesome Necron Geomancer from the new Kill Team Tomb World box. It's such a fantastic model, if I'm going to be honest guys. From the moment I seen it in the Kill Team reveals, I really loved it. It's just such a cool different design of Necron, and I really like styles like Ophidian Destroyers, the original wraiths that used to be on this kind of style of body as well, except without the cool like centipede claws on the side of it. So I thought it was really cool, and of course it was going to be the first model I dove into. I was lucky enough to get one of these boxes on pre-order from my local hobby shop and that kind of thing. So without further ado, we're going to dive straight into painting this amazing model. Now I primed her. She, of course, is a she, so I have primed her with Leadbelcher to get us started with. It gets a good silver base down and that kind of thing. I'm going to go slightly different from the box art, but I'm going to use this tutorial to try and get quite close to the box art and that kind of thing. So I've started by priming the model in Leadbelcher, as I said, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to give it just an all-over coat of Leadbelcher as well. And just my thinking behind that is that the finish on this spray Leadbelcher is slightly different from the spray on our kind of Leadbelcher from the pot. So it means that if I actually make any mistakes or anything like that, then it means we can tidy that up then afterwards, and the finish will remain the same across the whole model. So that's the idea there in that case. But as you can see here, I'm taking my time, and guys, I will just apologize straight away at the start of this video. You might hear me say it a few more times. This model was a colossal pain in the backside to get in focus. It was really, really bad. I don't know if it was just the autofocus on my camera had some serious difficulty with it, or it's just there's so many like sticking out like claws and limbs and everything like that, but the camera just did not want to focus on this Necron Geomancer. So I did my best to get this in focus for you guys for this painting tutorial, but please bear in mind I did try my best. So here we are with the finished Leadbelcher on it. You can see the finish is much better. You can actually see the difference between the two finishes, which I thought was quite interesting as well. So first up, we're going to do the kind of black green tone to the back carapace armor here in that case. So to get started with, we're going to throw a coat of Warp Lightning all over this. Now you can use any kind of good contrast green on it. I've seen people use Striking Scorpion. I've seen people use Karandras. I like Warp Lightning because it's the darker of those contrasts and that kind of thing, and I do love a good contrast green, but it is the darker of those contrasts, so I think it actually will bring out the best finish when we're trying to look and get the black over the top of this as well here. So just take your time guys, try not to mark any of that silver. As I said, the whole point of us doing the Leadbelcher though from the pot is that if we do nick anything in silver, we can try and tidy it all back up. So don't be afraid if you do nick anything guys. The whole point of this tutorial is to try and make this easy for you. But it just means that when we're kind of doing this armor, it'll involve less cleanup and that kind of thing. So you can see here I'm taking my time. Also guys, we're going to do the black of the claws, so anything that's got that kind of black green hue to it across the armor and that kind of thing, we're going to do that as well in this. So you can see I'm just taking my time, I'm going across those claws as well, and you can see already that the Warp Lightning is kind of a darker contrast as well. In that case, it's not as bright as, say, like if you've watched my Emperor's Children tutorial, you know I'm a really good fan of the Striking Scorpion green, which is really tasty on them for the kind of the really vivid hues of the green yellow kind of color, or just like a really vivid like neon green. But whereas when you look at the Warp Lightning, for example, you can see it's a much more kind of muted kind of green color and that kind of stuff. It's a deeper kind of green and that kind of thing. So that's what we're using here. So just take your time guys, take your time and go through it. This Kill Team box was fantastic. Here you can see the Warp Lightning just put all over the model here like this. It's really good. Next up, we're going to jump up to Black Legion, and we're just going to do all the actual black segments on this model, the parts that are true black now, not the kind of black green color that we want those kind of areas we did the Warp Lightning in. So this is like it's going to be the area on the staff that's actually the handle, and then all the joints in the kind of the exoskeleton or necrodermis, basically where the actual metallic parts are meeting each other. He does have, or she, sorry, I keep saying she does have a little bit at the back of the head as well that needs to be done in this black as well, that just kind of completes the look. So there you go, you can see here I've done all of that in as well. I've also done the section up at the top of the staff as well, you can see here, but that section in behind there will really help then, basically just to kind of add some kind of depth to the model then as well. Now guys, what I'm doing here is, and apologies I didn't put this pot of paint up, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to throw a coat of Black Templar contrast now all over the areas that we've done the warp lightning in here. And Black Templar is really good for this. I've seen War Hipster does amazing things with this, so this is a little bit borrowed off of his scheme, for example, here. But the Black Templar is not kind of as true a black as Black Legion. It's a little bit transparent, so you can see here I'm just gently working it over the warp lightning here and that kind of thing. Just make sure you try and avoid any pooling. There will probably be a clip here. I actually had a lot of pooling on the shoulders, for example. I had to go back and just thin that back out again and that kind of thing. So just make sure you're moving that contrast around to avoid that pooling, but just make sure then you're giving it due attention and getting a nice coat on there as well. You want to be able to see the hues of green through it and that kind of thing as well. So you can see here, just taking my time, apply it, move that contrast around. That's the whole point of contrast, is overload your brush and then move it around to fill that space then and fill that area as well. So it is really good. You can see I've obviously done the claws, I've done one side of the shoulders here and that kind of thing. And the end result is that we're going to get that really good Necron kind of green black hue without having to spend like ages going in like glazing greens into it and doing bits and pieces like that, for example, which would just take way too long. I like to get my model on the table quick, guys, here, and I know I'm going to try and get quite close to the box art here, which is the whole point of this video, is can we get them quite close to the box art quickly. But I'm not willing to spend ages and ages, guys, doing techniques that I would never actually apply in real life. So this is it. You can see there the black green hue kind of showing through there when the light hits it. It's really nice. Now we're going to jump up to Terradon Turquoise here for the little kind of floating obelisk there that's in the middle of his actual kind of I suppose in the middle of his centipedal form, or her centipedal form I should say, basically, and that kind of thing. So the Terradon Turquoise is really cool. This is fantastic over a metallic. I had no idea how good this would look over a metallic until I started applying it, and oh my goodness, does it look tasty. That looks really good. That is like, the color that this turns into is nearly what I would think an Alpha Legion armor could look like. It looks so good. I'm really impressed with it, actually. And to be honest with you, it's a color that I don't use very often. I bought it a while ago, probably caught up in the hype of the Seraphon when they got their refresh, like everybody else, to be honest with you, because who doesn't love dinosaurs? But I've never actually used it for a lot of projects before, so it's really cool to actually use it now for something like this, for example, which is something I really didn't think I would use it on. So again, just like we did with the Black Templar and the Black Legion, guys, take your time, move around, fill the space. The obelisk is really nice because there's actually lots of gaps actually in the obelisk, so you could actually overload your brush and then fill that segment and then move on to the next segment and fill that segment and move on to the next segment and fill that segment. The only thing I would advise, guys, is just try and keep that orb in the middle free of the Terradon Turquoise, and the idea behind that is that we're going to go back over that with some white and that kind of thing. So it would be much more preferable if we were to actually just leave that silver so the white is coating the same paint all over, rather than there's a smidge of Terradon Turquoise somewhere and a smidge of silver and you have to try and apply a couple of coats then, because the Terradon Turquoise is quite a vivid color. So that's just my tips. There's the Terradon Turquoise there. That looks so good, guys, doesn't it? That's such a cool color. I've never used that color before, but I really need to try and figure out how to get it into more stuff. So next up, we're going to jump up to the kind of staff, the blade of the staff, I'm going to say here in this case. Guys, if you know the name of the blade on the staff, let me know in the comments below. I'm just going to call it the blade of the staff. And we're going to jump up here with some Karandras Green. So we want this to be a brighter hue than we actually made his like carapace originally, but we don't want it to be as bright as we're going to make some of the other areas basically in that case. So we're going to go Karandras Green over the Leadbelcher here, just apply this gently. And the blade actually is nice and segmented as well, and actually I found when applying this, the contrast just flowed really nicely over it as well, just using exactly that same technique, taking our time. You know, just fill the spaces. The segments are nice. There's nothing too complicated on it and that kind of thing. And actually, you naturally flow with the shade, I find. You naturally flow with the shape of the actual kind of blade, which is really nice. I think that's quite intuitive from Games Workshop and that kind of thing. The blade is quite intuitively designed and that kind of thing as well. So it looks really good. There's the Karandras Green on there as well. So that was a good kind of exercise to do while we were just waiting on that Terradon Turquoise to dry on it. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to just fill in a couple more of the metallics here that are just going to be all over the rest of the model. So we're going to jump up to Runelord Brass. Originally, actually, all my Necrons were Runelord Brass. I did them based on the, I believe it was the Sazrakan dynasty, I think, which is the Silent Kings, obviously. So I actually had my whole army done in Runelord Brass at one point, and then I changed my mind because I like Sautek a lot more, basically. So I did them back in the traditional kind of silver scheme of Necrons, basically, and that kind of thing as well. But Runelord Brass here, we're going to jump in and we're going to fill in just some of these metallics, like the points between the blade. There's actually not a lot of Runelord Brass on this, guys. It's mostly around the staff, and then you can see here I'm doing his kind of the crown, or the kind of brace that of carapace that's around the neck and that kind of thing as well. So just take your time, guys. We've obviously spent a lot of time doing some bits and pieces on the kind of black of the armor, and the green contrast might be still a little bit wet at this point in time while you're doing it, so do take your time, guys, with this. It will pay off if you take your time. It's not too challenging though to get it in there and that kind of thing. Just make sure you use a good sized brush. I've been using a small layer Citadel brush, which has been really good. So we're going to jump up to our Striking Scorpions Green now, basically here, and this is where we're going to start adding some pops of color into this model here in that case. So we're just doing it on the cables underneath the chest there and that kind of thing. Next up, we're going to go up to some Leadbelcher here. By the way, guys, I also threw some Striking Scorpion Green all over the little the mini obelisk coming out of his hand as well. You can just throw that all over that model there in that case, just to make it easy and make life not too difficult as well. Just throw it all over that model there and that kind of thing, so it'll look really good then in that sense. So now we're going to start shading some of those metallics there in that case. So we're going to jump up to Nulin Oil then in that case, and this is just to give us a good way of just kind of getting all the way through all the metallics. Just keep the shade nice and simple and that kind of stuff. It'll add some depth into our actual our metallics and that kind of thing. It'll give us a nice shade and that kind of thing as well. So take your time, guys. It is okay. It's just Nulin Oil after all. We always work with it and that kind of stuff, or everybody knows how good Nulin Oil is basically at this point and that kind of thing. So just take your time, work your way up through it. You can see here my camera is having a bit of a fit trying to focus on this the whole time, basically. As I said, guys, I do apologize. It's just, he is an awkward model to try and get in frame and in focus, to be honest with you. You'll probably see a few times I'm going to have to hold my hands up in front of him, but she is an absolutely magnificent model. Absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to see what 40k rules she has as well, to be honest with you. I know she's made for a kill team, but I can't wait to see what they do with her for 40k, to be honest with you. I have a small kind of Necron force from the 9th edition starter set, not Indomitus, but the Command edition set, if you guys remember that, the one that they introduced after that for beginners. It had like Necron Warriors, Scorpack Destroyers, the Lord with the Tachyon Arrow in it, and since then I've added a few bits and pieces over the years. So I'm really looking forward to actually like seeing what rules that she can bring to my 40k Necrons then in that case. So next up, guys, this is really tricky to get in focus, so I do apologize, but what we're going to do here is we're going to try and get the definition in the blade, and I'm going to try a technique that I don't normally use, and it's basically a little bit of kind of blending or glazing, if you want to call it that, basically, right? So I'm going to mix Dark Angel's Green with Lahmian Medium. I'd go about 4 parts Lahmian Medium to 1 part Dark Angel Green, and then what I'm going to do is you put it on the one edge of the blade. The blade is segmented, so make sure you do that. You can see I put it on the top edge of the blade, and then what you do is go about 1/4 of the way down and then rinse your brush off with some water really quickly. And while there's a little bit of water hanging onto the brush, take all the excess water off, but while there's a little bit of dampness still in your brush, try and blend it into the blade, and move your brush around in kind of the circular motions and that kind of thing, and try and just kind of work it in until it thins. You can see there on the top left, the definition on the blade now has changed. The darker edges of that blade are in place now, and you can see I've worked it down into the bottom right as well. So this is me trying to work it into the rest of the model now in that case as well. So it was a new skill, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not confident with glazing or blending or anything of that kind, but as I said, I wanted to try and get this to look a little bit like the box art for you guys as well, so that we can take some of the intimidation factor out of it. And I think this did a reasonable job, to be honest with you. There are definitely better ways to do Necron blades, but I was happy enough with this one. I thought it looks the part. You can see there, that top left in particular on the front is really good actually in that case. So next up, we're going to jump into some Tessaract Glow and some Terradon Turquoise, right? And this is for the obelisk in his hand. What we're going to do is Apologies for the focus, guys, there, that's really bad. But we're putting the Tessaract Glow all over the little obelisk on his hand that we've already coated with the Striking Scorpion Green. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our brush very quickly and wash off all the water and that kind of stuff and take it all away. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back then with some Terradon Turquoise around the edges then of the obelisk, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to slowly blend them together then, but then rather than using the water and the medium and that kind of thing, we're going to actually just use the Terradon Turquoise itself to blend them together while the two paints are still wet and that kind of thing. So hopefully what it does is it gives us a kind of smooth blend around the outer edges, which will kind of present the image of this kind of green glow in the middle of that tiny obelisk then in that case as well. So hopefully that shows through, guys. I do apologize for the focus there, as he's been, or she has been, really terrible. She's a bit camera shy obviously by the look of things, but that's the after effect then in that case as well. And then we're going to jump up to some pure Terradon Turquoise, and again we're going to try some more blending here, guys. So I've thinned this Terradon Turquoise down with some water, kind of about maybe 1-to-1 water basically in that case on a palette, and I'm slowly blending it up onto the actual big obelisk now in the middle, and try and do it quite close to the edges, guys. There are some nice segments on this actual obelisk here, but try and keep it to the bottom. And then again what you do is just go back to the water, wash your brush off, a little bit of water still in the brush, take the excess of it off. You can see my tissue in the background there that I've been using, and what you do is just slowly blend it together. Then we're looking to try and get a smooth transition here to present that there's almost like a glowing effect coming from the middle of the obelisk here. So try and get it to go around the kind of center point of the obelisk. You can see here I've switched to the top now of the obelisk, and I'm trying to replicate the same effect there basically with that as well. It does take practice, guys, and I know this one is a bit rough as well. This is my first time doing this, but you can see there is a noticeable difference between the middle of the obelisk and the kind of bottom and the top of it as well. So now we're going to give some of that silver a little bit of attention now that we've given the rest of that some attention. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump up to our Stormhost Silver, and we're going to give all of the silver a really light dry brush. And I say a light dry brush because she is a little bit spindly, I would say, to be totally honest. She is a little bit spindly, and actually we don't want to cause any damage to the model. Actually, one of the little arms have popped off of mine since filming this video, actually, in that case. But you can see here, just a gentle dry brush over all of these just brings that silver a little bit back to life now after we've done the Nulin oil as well there in that case. She looks really good now. She's really coming together. So this is where we're going to start to prepare some of these glowing bits now for the actual effect that we're going to put in now, which is going to be with our Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White. You guys know I use this in nearly every video for eyes and for anything else. It is one of my favorite go-to whites, to be honest with you. And I've actually been quite lucky with Games Workshop whites for a lot of the time, but this is still my white of preference. So just put this on everywhere you want to have a glowing effect. All the orbs, all the little bulbous balls, you can see I've done them there in that case as well. So she looks really good. Now she looks a bit rough with the white in there at the moment, but we're going to fix that now in about 2 seconds now. But we're going to jump up to do a few little highlights here first. So we're going to use Moot Green, and then the other green we're going to use is actually Warpstone Glow, guys, here. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply an edge highlight of Warpstone Glow, sorry guys, all over the black of the armor, and it ties back into our Warp Lightning then, because I always think Warpstone Glow is the kind of the base layer version of Warp Lightning. And then what we're going to do is with the Moot Green, we're going to apply some edge highlights then over the blade then in that case, because that would be much closer to, say, Karandras Green then in that case. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense there, and my color choices there and that kind of thing. I did originally try and do an edge highlight of Moot Green all over the black armor. Didn't like it. I thought the pop of the slightly more vibrant green would be really nice. I didn't enjoy it at all, guys, if I'm going to be totally honest with you. I actually hated it. It looked really off, and it was not at all something that I enjoyed looking at, to be honest with you. So as I said, I went back to the Warpstone Glow in that case, and I think it really looks good in comparison. It's a much more kind of subtle green and that kind of thing, and it blends much more with our kind of black green effect we've got going on in the carapace armor as well there in that case. So just take your time, guys, put some time into this. We have spent a nice bit of time here. You can see that lovely crisp highlight on there. It's going to bring a little bit of interest into the rest of the model as well, which is really what we want to do here. I mean, she's such an amazing model. I can't get over it, guys. She was definitely, I don't know if I would have bought this box if she wasn't in it. The Necron terrain is amazing. Yes, it is absolutely fantastic. The Deathwatch kill team is amazing and that kind of thing. I don't think I would have bought this box if she wasn't in it, to be honest with you, because she is the main reason that I bought this box. So again, she's really good. She's, for me, I love this style of Necron where they start to play about with the design. They're less kind of humanoid and less kind of like the Scorpax on the pincer legs, and more like these kind of serpent bodies and that kind of thing, Ophidian Destroyer style. On another level, guys, how cool would an Ophidian Destroyer Lord be? I think that would be awesome. I think that would be something that Necrons could really get a good bit of change out of, and it might get more people playing Ophidian Destroyers as well. So as you can see, guys, here, I have just been given this due time, basically, and that kind of thing. We've spent a lot of time on this model. We want it to look really crisp, we want it to look great, and we want it to look a little bit like the box art without spending as much time as the guys in the box art do. So we're just taking our time here and going through it. Here you go, guys. You can see here the little effect that does give. It just sharpens some of those edges. It doesn't, it just makes those edges look a little bit better. You can see there on the blade as well, then in that case as well. But I think it really pays off to give this the attention here. Another edge highlight, guys, here in that case. I know I'm doing quite a lot, but this is why we're kind of doing more of a box art style video than an actual kind of like a quick and easy one here in that case, but we are trying to bring the box art down. So I've just taken Temple Guard Blue, highlighting all the edges of our obelisk that we put the Terradon Turquoise on, and the big obelisk in the middle, by the way. We're not doing an edge highlight on the little smaller one, although actually, guys, just a quick note, I did add a Moot Green edge highlight to that as well. So now the favorite part for every Necron player, we get to do the glow effect to the eyes. So because we prepared that with the Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White, you can see here, all I have to do here is just take a little bit of time, a little bit of Tessaract Glow, and it's just one coat, done and dusted. It looks really good. It just adds that little bit of visual interest to the model and that kind of thing. And you can see here, just take your time and just go over it. Don't kind of nick any of the other paint jobs, but Tessaract Glow just flows, I think, beautifully from the brushes. When I first started, I did not know how to use this paint at all, but I've become a little bit savvier about it since actually kind of being in the hobby a little bit longer and that kind of thing. So it's a lovely color to work with when you know how to use it and that kind of thing. So as I said, it just flows beautifully over the brushes. We're putting it over the kind of everything that we colored in white. You can see I even did the little Necron tier symbol on the staff there and that kind of thing. You can see now I'm changing that to actually the green as well. Then in that case, you can see I threw that. So there you go, guys. There's that glow effect. It's fantastic, isn't it? And with that, our actual Necron Geomancer is actually finished now, and we're going to move over to the basing. So now I'm going to base this Necron model a little bit like I used to base some of my other Necrons back at the start of 9th edition when I first got the box. Would I do it again? Probably not. I would probably change the way I do this a little bit. So you can see here, guys, what I'm doing is I'm applying a coat of PVA glue over the base here, and I have a box full of the Geek Gaming Scenics here in that case. But once the coat of PVA glue has been applied onto the base, what we're going to do is we're going to stick the Geek Gaming Scenics on top of the PVA glue, then basically give it a few taps, and that'll be our Necron done in that case. So what would I do to change this in the future, guys? I think I would probably do something to do with, if you watched my Tyranid video or my Emperor's Children video, but I think my Tyranid video is the best representation of it. If you watch my Tyranid Ravener video, I actually apply a coat of the AK diorama, which I have put some black paint into to color it a little bit and that kind of thing, and then I put something on top of it. So you can see here, this is my Necron Tomb World mix from Geek Gaming Scenics. And actually what I would do in the future is I would do the AK diorama rather than the PVA glue, and then while the diorama set is still wet, you would put this stuff over the top. And actually I think it would work better as well, because that's a paste, you could push a couple of the gemstones actually into the paste as well. But guys, that is our Necron Geomancer finished. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you like it? Did you manage to get one in the box? Have you painted yours? As always, I want to thank you very much for your time. Please hit that like and subscribe button. It means a lot to the channel. But have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.